is just fantastic. Captain's log, subdates 210804.5. I've decided to use one of my spare Suliban cell ships to act as a rather nice little decoy, while I use the main cell ship to go and wreak havoc on their cute little helix. I'm going to start by changing the poles on their maglocks. Right. I think for obvious reasons, we need to be here on the bridge. Yeah, the title is enough of a giveaway. If you are not familiar with the name James Saroka, I'm going to link some very good videos by Steve D Live and Beta Male Repsion, or just Repsion. And I only call him Beta because we're in the presence of an alpha male. We're all beta to him. Their videos are informative, go into great detail, and cover a considerable amount of backstory when it comes to James Saroka. I am going to give you the Cliff's Notes version of James Saroka. James Saroka is famous on Periscope. So basically at this point, in his mind, he is famous for being confident, strong, charismatic, and above all else, he is 100% full of shite, which basically translates to an e-begging abusive scam artist. And James Saroka by definition is a possibility based on recent goings-on for a Halls of Injustice. I know, how exciting! It's not like I have 10 targets already assigned. 11 would just make it such a round number, right? Over the years, James Saroka has built a name off two things. Streaming, a lot of IRL streams. He will sit there with his partner Caitlin, who he has shielded from the world. Shielded being a charitable word, we'll get to that later. And the consequences of the vast majority of his incredibly toxic behaviour on stream towards Caitlin. Would you all like to see a short clip of that aforementioned toxic behaviour?
You are in a cycle. I'm not abusing you anymore. Say f me too all you want, but that's all you're doing is trying to f me.
Isn't he just a classy little bitch? In 2020, James Saroka came under the attention of the earlier mentioned beta male Repsion, which also led to a number of consequences. The earlier exchanges were kinda worthless, but they did encourage Repsion to do a little digging, which then led to Saroka scorched earthing his YouTube channel, because he had found out Repsion was making a video on him. That video is called The James Saroka Files, A Worst Onision Episode 1. It does within it have a lot of rather handy clips. Those clips best demonstrate the vast majority of his incredibly negative behaviour towards his partner, along with his attitudes on life and himself, of course. He has to keep the narcissism levels up to maintain appearances, which oddly enough translate off camera anyway. Now, while James Saroka did in fact delete the vast majority of the content on his YouTube channel at the time, he, like everyone else, seems to forget the internet really is forever, and there are plenty of archived channels that exist solely to catalogue you. Much like with others like EDP, much like with others like Onision, or any other internet boomer who doesn't seem to get, once you've said something, it's never going away. Like deleting a tweet. Do you really think the tweet's gone? That's cute. Because of the direct fallout of Repsion calling out the alpha male, yes, many other creators then made it a point to call him out. Some doing rather lengthy streams, I believe Irate Alex did a number of them, covering James Saroka, calling him out for being abusive, not just verbally towards Caitlin, but physically, something which James himself has admitted, saying that he had to do it. He had no choice. You know, I'm just going to play a clip.
Does bad things, no one needs to judge. I appreciate that, but I hit a woman. So it's kind of like forgiveness is a necessity. The reason I crossed that line is because Caitlin had lied so heavily, and that just really upset me. And so we got in a tussle, and it wasn't good.
When it comes to a lot of his behaviour, part of me thought the reason he sat on stream and looked Caitlin in the eye and was rude, obnoxious, arrogant, and demeaning, I had thought he'd done it to get a reaction of the more physical variety. or because he is that sure of himself because of the damage he had done to her that there was no chance she would ever so much as swipe back because she knows he will strike her down, which is more than likely true because, let's face it, he had successfully managed to shut her off from the rest of the world, cut her off from anyone and everyone that loves her, so that he could control every aspect of her life. People like that do not deserve to be happy, and to be clear, I mean James does not deserve to be happy at all. Just to demonstrate just how vile a person he is, I'm now going to play a couple clips of his, let's call them, greatest hits. No pun intended.
You will not get my time unless you pay for it.
No, hitting didn't occur this morning. No, it's been happening over the last couple of months, between the two of us. It's literally who I am. So if I am living manipulation, well, I mean, I guess I need to get put away. But I ain't Charles Manson because nobody is going out and killing people here.
What happened yesterday with you and Kate? Like
your photo does not match who you are. You are a liar. Look at her photo, listen to her voice. She's middle-aged.
No,
that photo's a lie.
Would you stop? Listen, why did you and Kate
Stop, listen, what are you, my mom?
Jimmy,
Ew,
listen.
I already fired my mom.
Why did you punch Kate in
Fired!
the face?
Physical hitting has happened between the two of us. That is abuse. People want the exposure, you want the truth. There's your truth.
Because of the furore around what he had done, and the vast amount of creators calling him out, James Saroka took a 2 to 3 month break from social media, where then he decided to make a triumphant return. If you didn't see the sarcasm sign, there was one there. He had claimed that all of his actions before were just him expressing himself honestly, which is only fair in a relationship, and therefore, people should respect the fact that a man and a woman interact in such a way. Understandably, no one bought it, no one agreed with it, everyone chastised it. Now, after this air quote triumphant and air quote return to social media, for me, I heard very little of Mr. Gaslighter Pro Tier wannabe cult leader with eye so far apart he looks like a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome, until last week, where in Tulsa, Oklahoma, witnesses observed James Saroka striking his girlfriend Caitlin, who is now pregnant, multiple times in the face, with the county sheriff Scott Walton saying this was a disturbing aggravated case of control and abuse he has not seen before, going so far as to compare it to the beginnings of a cult. Upon his arrest, which was a bit tricky because he refused to be identified until they grabbed his driver's license, James Saroka refused to answer any questions. Caitlin was with him at the time of the arrest and exhibited multiple signs of battered women's syndrome. Proof of that was because Caitlin was extremely reluctant to answer any questions, going so far as to ask James Saroka for permission to talk on several occasions. The only thing she really indicated to police was that she had no car, no money, and no place to go, with investigators acknowledging that these are indicators of domestic abuse, with Deputy Wheeler Dorsey saying no contact with the outside world other than the spouse, no access to any financial means, reluctance to talk to anyone other than the spouse, and feeling obliged to ask the spouse for permission to do things as common as answer questions to anyone other than the spouse. James Saroka was charged with battery on a pregnant woman and is currently at the Amos G. Ward detention facility facing a bond of $25,000, with a court date tomorrow on August the 5th. Now, as for the victim, the police were able to get hold of Caitlin's parents, who drove to Oklahoma so fast that the police don't believe they even stopped to pack their bags. They got there, put her in the car, and left, with the police unable to get a statement from the parents because of how quick they got there and extracted her, which was the right thing to do, to take her somewhere safe, because that's what she needs. James deserves to rot, and I hope he does. I hope Caitlin has no interaction with him again, gets the help she needs, because she's going to need help, loving, caring support, and lots of it. And cake. Give her cake. James deserves a different type of cake. It's actually a sandwich. It's called a cock meat sandwich. I'm unsure if you've ever heard of it. If you haven't, just get on your knees and pray with your mouth wide open for your cellmate. If James does in fact get sentenced, found guilty even, and then sentenced to prison time at all, yes, there will be a Halls of Injustice on it. If not, we'll do one anyway. He will be in the ISO cubes. I'll get those witness statements. We got this, fam. Now, as we're done, I'd like to know what you think. Please do let me know in the comments down below. As a final thing, I shall be streaming some Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Twitch tonight. If I don't see you there, have a fantastic day. Thank you all very much for listening.